Everybody loves pretty plant pictures, right? I kind of embrace the ugly plant pictures, especially pictures of plants that have been damaged either by a pest or a disease or really cold weather, unusually cold weather. And we had a bout of that here in this area of California back in mid-January, and it set back a few plants. Well, we talked about that. Debbie Flower and I were at the Elk Grove Garden Club recently, addressing the throngs, and the subject of frost-damaged plants or freeze-damaged plants. What should you do? We talked about that. Here it is. Any of you lose plants in the last couple of weeks because of cold mornings? Yeah, or you think you've lost plants. They look sad. My best friend in the backyard, Chuck, looks sad. It's a Brugmansia, Charles Grimaldi, and Chuck is looking real sad. And that's what happens when you try to, grow plants that are out of your zone. You look at a Brugmansia, and Debbie, what is that, about a zone 10 plant? Really, it's semi-tropical. Right. And here, as long as the weather stays above 30, you're fine. But once it gets down into the mid-20s, like it did a couple of weeks ago, we are starting to see some very sad plants.
And mine had started blooming. My Charles Grimaldi. Was yours in bloom?
Oh, yeah. It was in bloom because we had warm weather.
Oh, I love it. And then you go out the next day and it's put.
So what would you do to save time in this regard?
I wouldn't touch it. The dead parts on top are going to protect what's below. So if there's more cold coming, and Fred was telling me the 50-50 date in Sacramento for chance of frost being 50% is February 15th. I think of March 15th, or March 17th, because that's St. Patrick's Day, and it's always easy to remember holidays, as a date when our average last frost. But Fred was also telling me that we had a frost April 12th of last year. So it's unpredictable. But what happens at night, sun goes down, and if it's a clear night, the heat from the earth starts coming up, and it just keeps on going. If you put something in its way, a porch roof, some frost cloth, or dead plant parts, then it traps that heat underneath whatever that is, the porch roof, the dead plant parts. So if your plant has suffered some and you have dead plant parts flopping over, they will act to protect from future frosts.
I was reading this morning a garden tip from an orchardist who has early blooming apricots. You mentioned you have an apricot tree in bloom. Yeah. With frosts coming more until the latest frost ever recorded, well, we set the record last year, April 12th. I know anybody listening to this on the podcast and you live back east, you're laughing because you're not safe till what, Mother's Day?
Or my son's in Minnesota.
Yeah,
still
well, that's
snow.
4th of July or thereabouts. But this orchardist was saying that he protects his apricot flowers during the time of the year when it's in bloom, because apricots bloom so early, there's always a chance of them being affected by the frost. You lose the flowers, you lose the fruit. What he does is cut off branches of evergreens and covers the plant with them every year.
Wow, that's labor intensive.
That's labor intensive, but you're going to get apricots.
Yes.
And it's cheap.
Yes.
And this orchardist wrote this in 1785.
Holy smokes.
So it was just based on his observation, but this goes back to Farmer Fred Garden Rule number 8. If it works for you, fine, but keep an open mind. And now you just have to convince yourself to embrace the ugly.
Mm-hmm. A couple of seasons of that in California. The very end of the summer when everything's dried out and dirty because we haven't had any rain and things just aren't happy. You have to embrace the ugly. My daughter-in-law, who used to live here, didn't like that time of year. And I said, well, she lived in Ohio. Wherever you live, there's going to be a season that you're not going to enjoy your yard. For them, it's winter. For us, it's that time of year and then this short period in spring when we have the ugly frost damage.
Again, that was Debbie Flower and myself addressing the Elk Grove Garden Club recently here in Sacramento County. You can hear the rest of our chat with that group talking about ways to save time, money, and water in the garden. It's all in episode 253 of the Garden Basics with Farmer Fred podcast. You can hear it at gardenbasics.net and wherever else you get your podcasts.